Beyond the famous Moscow Tsar Cannon and Tsar Bell, Russia has another unique royal artifact, the so-called Tsar Bath. This monumental object is hidden from the public eye deep within Babolovo Park near Saint Petersburg. The Tsar Bath is a gigantic stone basin, a monolithic granite reservoir about 2 meters deep and weighing around 50 metric tons. Its rim rises above human height, like the walls of a well. It is rightly called a masterpiece of stone cutting. It was carved entirely by hand from a single block of granite, and the craftsman used only simple tools, which makes its creation truly astonishing. No wonder contemporaries compared this work to the grand monuments of ancient Egypt, saying that since the time of the pharaohs nothing so colossal had appeared in stone. The story of this stone giant began under Emperor Alexander I. At the request of the eminent engineer Betancourt, the commission to produce a granite bath for the Babolovo Palace was given to the master stonecutter Samson Sukhanov. By then Sukhanov was a top-tier craftsman. Under his direction rose the rostral columns on Vasilyevsky Island, the colonnades of the Kazan and St. Isaac's cathedrals, obelisks, and the granite elements of the Alexander Column. In short, a man capable of taking on the boldest task. In 1818, a single block of special granite, with beautiful labradorite inclusions that shimmer in the sun, weighing more than 160 metric tons, was delivered directly to the manor under construction. That feat alone was an engineering triumph, since there were no railways and little suitable machinery at the time. Sukhanov and his team set about hewing a giant basin from the boulder with nothing but mallets and chisels. Over 10 years of hard labor, they removed everything superfluous, taking off roughly 120 metric tons of rock. The granite bath was then ground and polished for several more years, bringing the inner and outer surfaces to a flawless smoothness and the wall thickness to about 45 centimeters. The result was an enormous bowl almost 2 meters high and more than 5 meters across. It held up to 12 metric tons of water, about 800 buckets. For this titanic work, Sukhanov received a fee of 16,000 rubles, a colossal sum for the time. He later admitted, however, that he became so absorbed in the project that he spent at least 7,000 rubles of his own money beyond the budget, effectively at a loss to himself. The delivery and installation of the basin remain an equally puzzling episode. The granite boulder for it was found on one of the Finnish islands and was first transported by water. Yet how the colossal block and later the nearly 40-ton finished basin were brought directly to Babolovo is a mystery to this day. There are no direct navigable routes to the site, and dragging dozens of tons overland seemed unthinkable. Perhaps Sukhanov's team rough-shaped the stone at the quarry on the island, greatly reducing the weight for transport, or perhaps they managed to move the unworked 160-ton monolith. In either case, their technical skill inspires amazement. No precise records survive, and historians are still debating. It is possible the stone was hauled over winter ice on sledges, or a special multi-wheeled platform was built, as was done for bulky loads in the 18th century. There is no definitive answer, and this remains one of the many mysteries of the Tsar Bath. Such uncertainty has even spawned conspiratorial versions. Some doubt that people in the 19th century could have created anything like this by hand at all, attributing the bath to assistance from mystical forces or lost technologies. Experts, however, are confident that no miracles are required here, especially given other masterpieces by Russian stonecutters, such as the granite columns of St. Isaac's Cathedral or the monumental Alexander Column. The Tsar Bath is the fruit of persistent, many-year labor, not magic, and it stands as visible proof of the outstanding skill of the engineers and workers of that era. The Babolovo Palace that housed the Tsar Bath is noteworthy in its own right. It began as a small 10-room bathing pavilion built under Empress Catherine II for her favorite, Prince Grigory Potemkin. In the center of the hall, there was then a rather modest marble tub. Several decades later, under Alexander I, it was decided to install here a new bath of unprecedented size. For this, in 1823 to 1825, the architect Vasily Stasov rebuilt the pavilion, reinforcing the floor structures and erecting a special octagonal hall tower around the future granite basin. After the stone-cutting work was finished, Sukhanov's craftsmen set the Tsar Bath on 4 granite supports in the center of the hall and constructed a high roof above it. Thus, the bathing estate was transformed into a unique imperial bathing facility. It was believed that the emperor and members of his family, coming to Babolovo in summer, would be able to enjoy water treatments here, surrounded by luxury and privacy. From a practical standpoint, however, one question arose: how to fill and empty a bath of such dimensions? Carrying thousands of liters of water by hand would have been extremely difficult, and the basin itself shows no obvious drain. The answer likely lay in an engineering solution that was advanced for its time. The Babolovo Palace stood right beside a branch of the Tatsi water conduit, the historic main water supply that fed the parks and fountains of Tsarskoye Selo. According to eyewitnesses from the late 19th century, it was enough to slightly open a special sluice at the nearest pond, and the bath would quickly fill by gravity. This worked on the principle of communicating vessels. The flow from the reservoir, the Silver Lake, was delivered directly into the tub through pipes, and when the bath needed to be emptied, an opening in its bottom was opened, and all the water flowed by gravity into the nearby Kazminka River. Indeed, a small drain hole is drilled in the center of the Granite basin. There is also a subfloor space with brick vaults beneath the bathing hall. This chamber was used to carry away the water from the bath. Calculations show that a volume of about 12 cubic meters of water at a depth of 1.5 meters could pass completely through a drain opening only 2.6 centimeters in diameter in 3 hours and 44 minutes. That is sufficiently fast for such a colossal basin. More importantly, a massive stone still lies directly beneath this opening. It was placed there deliberately so that the jet would not erode the soil under the palace. A clear trace of the long-running flow of water is visible on that granite. Therefore, the bath was indeed used regularly. This is not merely a decorative object, but a functioning engineering system designed for practical use. In any case, the presence of a water supply solved the problem of filling the giant tub. The emperors would not have had to wait while dozens of servants hauled 800 buckets of water. It was enough to turn a lever, and fresh water flowed directly into the bath. There is also a more mystical version of the Tsar Bath's purpose. According to this view, the Grand Basin was not so much for washing as for special rites or symbolic actions. Some researchers believe that the Babolovo Palace was conceived not simply as a bathing pavilion, but as a sacred space in which the bath served as the center and heart of the entire complex. However, there is no reliable evidence. Historians note that the most probable purpose was far more prosaic, namely for healthful bathing and imperial water procedures, albeit on a truly monumental scale. The subsequent fate of the Tsar Bath unfolded dramatically. During the Second World War, German forces who occupied Tsarskoye Selo were astonished at the sight of the granite giant and intended to take it to Germany, but failed. They lacked the resources to lift and transport such a mass. The colossal basin remained in place, although the Babolovo Palace itself suffered severely. By 1945, only ruins remained. After the war, the former imperial estate stood neglected for decades. The pavilion's walls and floors collapsed, and forest grew around it. Only the hall with the bath survived in part thanks to the strong brick vault that sheltered Sukhanov's creation. Fortunately, the granite basin itself survived the turmoil almost unscathed. Only small chips are visible in places along its rim. Today, it is practically impossible to enter the pavilion. The palace is officially closed, the grounds are fenced, and the site is guarded. In the 2010s, emergency stabilization work was carried out and a temporary roof was installed, but the condition of the building remains hazardous. Nevertheless, a restoration project is underway, and there is hope that in the coming years the Babolovo Palace and its unusual bath will appear before the public in a renewed state. It is noteworthy that the very name Tsar Bath is not historical, but modern. In the imperial era, the Granite Basin was not called by that name. The resounding title was coined in 2001 by analogy with the Tsar Cannon and the Tsar Bell. The name stuck with the public, for it is difficult to find a more apt description for such an impressive creation. We were fortunate enough to see the Tsar Bath on site, and the sight takes your breath away. No photograph conveys the feeling of standing beside this colossal basin towering over you beneath the vault of an abandoned hall. If, like us, you have been moved by the story of the Babolovo Bath and wish to see it with your own eyes, let us know. It is not impossible that access to this relic will become possible in the future. When that happens, the first steps across the floor of the hall with the Tsar Bath will be akin to touching a mystery that has been sealed for nearly 2 centuries. Would you like to be among those who will see it before others? Write to us on Telegram. For now, it remains to be remembered that the Tsar Bath is not simply a granite basin. It is a challenge to time, a monument to human perseverance and engineering skill that has survived wars, disasters, and neglect. It is waiting for its hour, and perhaps it will be you and us who become witnesses to its new birth.